Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Woodstock, Georgia, it's time for Cherokee Business Radio. Now, here's your host.
Welcome to another exciting and informative edition of Cherokee Business Radio. Stone Payton here with you this morning. And today's episode is brought to you in part by Alma Coffee, sustainably grown, veteran-owned, and direct trade, which means from seed to cup, there are no middlemen. Please go check them out at myalmacoffee.com or go visit their Roastery Cafe at 3448 Holly Springs Parkway in Canton. When you get there, ask for Leticia or Harry and tell them that Stone sent you. Please join me in welcoming to the broadcast, first up on the show this morning, with Renasant Bank, Mr. Eric Rein. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
We are delighted to have you in the studio, man. Business RadioX, of course, has a marvelous relationship with Renasant Bank already. You guys have helped us a great deal in the North Fulton market, so we were very excited to get a chance to have you come join us and get us caught up on what's going on. What is your role at Renasant?
So I'm a commercial banker. We work with companies starting around a couple $1 million in revenue, going up to around 150 million. So that's really most of the businesses in Cherokee County, Cobb County, kind of our surrounding markets.
So when you're visiting with people in the business arena, when in those initial conversations, what are those like? What kind of questions are they asking? What kind of questions are you asking them?
Really, we try to do a lot of listening. I came from a larger bank background, and so there's a lot of friction there right now. Banks are struggling through the pandemic. Companies are kind of all over the place. Some folks had record years. Some folks really struggled. It really is that K-shaped recovery. So we're trying to listen to where they are right now, what they're going to need going forward, and trying to come up with solutions. And that's really what a lot of what we do is working on customized solutions for companies in our space.
So I suspect many of our listeners probably have some of these same feelings. I got to be honest with you, Eric. I'm a little intimidated to just walk into a bank and say, I want to talk to my banker. I'm expanding. I'm building out another studio, which, by the way, is true, obviously.
Right.
But I'm a little intimidated. I don't feel like I know what to ask. I don't even feel like I know who to ask for. Can you give us a little bit of insight on, I don't know, maybe it's something as simple as when should we start trying to build a relationship with a banker, all the way to what are we looking for in a banking relationship?
Well, I promise we don't bite, but the most important thing is to start early. As soon as you have an idea, call and ask. If you don't know who your commercial banker is, that means you have a problem with your banking relationship. You really should know somebody within the bank. And what's happened with a lot of the larger banks, and there's a bank to fit everybody, but a lot of the larger banks have really kind of moved the business banking segment to a 1-800 number. And if that's where you are, that's not a great place to be because you don't have that personal relationship. You don't have someone that you can talk to. So a great way to start is to honestly walk into a branch and say, who's in your commercial lending group? Who can I talk to? If you don't have that relationship, it becomes really difficult to navigate. And, I think we saw a lot of that during the PPP process. Folks that didn't have a one-on-one relationship with a commercial banker either took them a lot longer to get the PPP loan completed, or they weren't able to access the funds at all. So, with Renasant, we have branches throughout the county, and each one has commercial lenders in the branch, which is a little bit unique. A lot of times we're centralized down at 285 or in Buckhead, but we really have a model where the commercial lenders sit within the branches. Not right now quite as much because of the pandemic. I know my dog really likes me working out of the house, although I like going into the office. But really, they can direct you to the right person that can help you understand what your needs are. Because sometimes you don't know what you don't know. If you haven't done a business loan recently or ever, it's going to be hard to know what you need to get together. So we're here to help you with that, and we can really help guide you through the process. And, our advice is worth what you pay for it, which is nothing. So, but we really are there to try to listen to what you need and try to find solutions that will meet that need.
Well, you've mentioned PPP, you've mentioned pandemic. For those of you listening who may be listening 2-3 years from when we do this live broadcast, we are conducting this episode. I mean, we're still neck deep in this whole pandemic thing. There looks to me like there's some promise in a vaccine or a couple of different vaccines coming out. But this is still very much on everyone's mind. I mean, several people are wearing masks, and there's a lot going on right now. PPP, I don't exactly remember, but I know it's connected to some sort of relief, right? Can you talk more about that?
It's the payroll protection program. Yeah. And really what that was geared to do is meet at least in the first round, was meet the immediate need. March, April, nobody really knew what things were going to look like 90 days out. I think everybody was impacted quite heavily. We didn't know what was going to survive, what wasn't. And I think we were all kind of using 2008 as the analog, 2009. So it was really just up in the air. We didn't know what was going to happen. Well, now we really are in this K-shaped recovery. Some businesses had record years last year. Some are trying to keep the doors open, and everybody's in a little bit of a different place. So here we are with round two, and round two has a little bit more of a qualification component to it. You have to show that you had a 25% revenue decline year over year, 2020 versus 2019. So I think the demand's not going to be what it was in the first round, but this really is a little bit more targeted. We're open for new applications. We've partnered with a group called Biz to Credit to help speed that process up. We were very successful in the first round. We did several $1 billion worth of PPP loans, which for a bank of our size is pretty remarkable. I know our branch personally in Kennesaw with 4 commercial lenders delivered over $50 million in payroll protection program loans. So that really kept a lot of people employed. But that first round relief is pretty much exhausted at this point. So now we're into the second round, and hopefully that will just be a Band-Aid more or less to keep people going as we still try to figure out exactly where we are in the recovery. I think we're getting closer, but it's still rough. We don't know. We're just, people are all over the map right now, quite honestly.
Now, is that where a great deal of your time and your colleagues' time is invested right now on this pandemic-related counsel, support, that kind of thing? Or are you working more with people like with Gary's Pockets?
Now it's interesting. It's really kind of a mix of both. A year ago when we started the process, March and April, we were working 80-hour weeks, 90-hour weeks. Alma Coffee, quite frankly, helped me get through it with their little pop-up at Reformation Brewery.
Don't they rock?
They're fantastic. So I stopped by there numerous times throughout the day as I was going back and forth to the office. But now we really have transitioned into more of an open market deals. We're still very busy with new loans. Interest rates are at historic lows, so a lot of people are refinancing. People that have been successful throughout the pandemic or whose industries have allowed them to be are really looking at space. Where can they acquire space? How can we position ourselves to be in good shape coming out of this? So we're still doing a lot of new deals. We've closed quite a few already this year and have more in the pipeline. So it's really a mix of both. We kind of always are counselors to some degree. Because when you run a small business, that's your whole life. Your whole family's involved. You're involved. I mean, that's just reality. So there's always a bit of that counseling aspect to what we do, but that's probably ramped up a little bit more over the last 12 months. And quite frankly, we're happy to do it. That it's fulfilling for us. And for once we got to play George Bailey instead of Gordon Gekko with the PPP process. So that's been a nice change of pace for us in the banking industry.
So what is your favorite part of the job? What do you enjoy the most?
I really love talking to small business owners. Yeah. My dad still runs a small insurance brokerage over in Duluth where I grew up. So really invested in that. My aunt and uncle ran a trucking company for years. So grew up kind of in and around small business. And really, I think people take for granted what it means to own a company and to take that risk. It's a ton of risk. Quite frankly, if I don't have the intestinal fortitude to do it myself, and that's why I like to work with small business owners, because I really appreciate what they do. And just it really is the lifeblood of our county and our market. You think about every small business that doesn't make it, that's a baseball team that doesn't get sponsored. That's a kid that might not go to college. I mean, those things are really important, and they're what makes a community great and makes a community different. So really enjoy seeing my customers succeed. And that's the part that I've been happy to witness over the last 15 years in the business, is seeing clients grow their businesses, grow and then sell. Really, to me, that's the American dream. So to play a small part in that, it's really exciting for me. And it's why I get out of bed every day, quite honestly.
So you live and work in the Cherokee County area? You're based here in Cherokee County, Woodstock area?
Yeah, I live in Holly Springs. We moved from North Fulton about 16 years ago after my wife and I got married. I grew up in Duluth. Quite frankly, I didn't know where Cherokee County was. Other than that, it was vaguely north of Cobb. I never really made it over to this part of town. And we drove out the one day and just said, wow, this is fantastic. And it's just a great community. It's grown rapidly in that time, but to me, it's gotten better in a lot of ways. We have downtown Woodstock, less than half a mile from here. Downtown Canton, Holly Springs is working on a project. Our office is in Cobb County. We're in Kennesaw, but really, I go wherever the money is, wherever clients need us. So all over Metro Atlanta, but to really try to focus on Cherokee and Cobb counties.
Well, I'd love to get your insight, your perspective on the business climate, the landscape here in Cherokee County and Woodstock. The reason being is I actually don't live here yet. As of this broadcast, I have a home under contract, like just under a mile from here. We're moving here from East Cobb. Obviously, I've made the investment to open another Business RadioX studio. Every indication so far is, wow, you could not tailor make a business community that is more wholly consistent with the value system at Business RadioX of supporting and celebrating just the great work that these folks are out there just grinding it out every day. That's my read. Sometimes I have a tendency to see things a little rosier than they really are. What is your read on this business community?
You're dead on with that. It's very welcoming. It's a very welcoming environment for entrepreneurs. Everybody's really in your corner. Folks like Misty Martin with the Cherokee Office of Economic Development, Pam Carnes with the Cherokee Chamber, really have laid a platform for success. And, you can just feel it driving around the community. In a lot of respects, you wouldn't even know we had a pandemic going on here with all the new restaurants opening, with all the amazing things that we have coming to the table here in Cherokee County. We're very fortunate with good leadership, good stewardship of our tax dollars as well, with the county commission and the folks that run the cities. I've found it to be very business friendly. I think the one thing that we don't have that we need more of is more industrial space. And I know that's kind of in the works right now, and that's tight everywhere just based on a lot of the last mile delivery and everything that's going on with online shopping. But we're incredibly fortunate. I think the future is very bright. It's a great place to locate a business and raise a family. And we have a great talent pool as well, which is always attractive for new businesses. So I think you're spot on. We've also been fortunate. I've traveled a little bit throughout the pandemic, and we're fortunate that we're open. We went out.
That's an excellent point. I guess sometimes I take that something as simple as that for granted. And I have I'm beginning to get very well wired, if you will, so fast. And it's because of people like Gary, who we're going to visit with earlier, that get me connected with people. It's because of the people here at the Innovation Spot who have a lot, they're introducing me to people. And of course, I've met quite a few bartenders as I come out every week. I interrupted you, but I wanted to acknowledge the point that I think sometimes I know I'm guilty of just taking for granted, just that we're open and we can even do business.
Yeah. We were out on the West Coast. We took a trip to go to some national parks back in September. We were out in California. You'd be in a hotel with 250 rooms and 3 people are in it. It's eerie. It really makes you, worried about those industries, particularly in some of the submarkets out west and, in the Northeast that just may not exist on the other side of this thing. And that's what's really, that's really scary. And it's heartbreaking to a degree as well. And I know we all have to be cautious and careful about the disease, but we don't want the cure to be worse than the disease. And that's what, that's what scares me a little bit. We've been fortunate that at the state level and at the local level, I feel like we've reopened in a reasonable manner that's really tried to balance the economy with stopping the spread of the virus. So we're very fortunate in that regard.
So how does the whole sales and marketing thing work for a commercial banker? Is it all inbound interest, or do you have to have some sort of strategy and plan for building relationships with people who maybe not today, but at some point are going to need your services?
It's really all about building relationships. It's really no different from any other business. We work a lot with CPAs, local business associations, the chambers, to go out and just tell our story. And Renasant's a little unique in that we're a 115-year-old community bank, essentially based out of Tupelo, Mississippi. We do have an Elvis impersonator occasionally show up at various company events, so that's fun. But we're kind of in a unique spot. A lot of our folks have large bank experience. I was with one of the largest banks in the country for numerous years, commuting down to 285 and Windy Hill every day, so I don't miss that too much. But we can bring that expertise to the table without some of the red tape, and I think that's where we are very successful. And that's what I really enjoy, having the creativity. If you're working with entrepreneurs, you got to think like one a little bit. And that's what our bank allows us to do. So really enjoyed that. And for us, it is really all about relationships. There's not a whole lot of walk-in traffic in banks these days. If I didn't work at one, I'm not sure when I would ever go to one, unless I was fortunate to have a check big enough that I couldn't scan it on my phone. So it's really just being in the community, working in the community, and meeting people like yourself.
So what's your take? Are you kind of bullish on the economic outlook in general, with some optimistic caution, or what? Yeah, what's your take on the economic outlook?
I'm an optimist, so I'm going to say that we're going to get that 3 to 5% GDP growth that everybody's predicting. I really do think it's going to be a K-shape. There are some industries that just aren't going to make it back, or it's going to be very challenging. You look at hospitality, you look at the restaurant business, which is tough even in good times. But I really, particularly here in Georgia and in specific in Cherokee County, the future is very, very bright. I'm hopeful that, say, by May or June, we have enough people vaccinated, or, that we're on the other side of the pandemic to a large degree and can operate as normal. I really think that's going to happen. And we'll see. I mean, if my crystal ball were that clear, I'd probably be on a yacht somewhere. But, I really do think that all the ingredients are there. We just got to bake the cake the right way. And that's it.
All right. I wrote down K-shape like 3 times. What do you mean by that? Like, you mean like some are going crazy up and some crazy down?
That's exactly right. If you're on the top part of that leg, right. life's pretty good for you. If you're in distribution, if you're in cold storage, grocery's been really hot this year. Any industrial space, you just can't find it. It doesn't exist anymore. Right. But, if you're in Midtown and you own a big office building, ouch, things are tough. If you're in retail in certain areas, I don't know, what that's going to look like on the other side. And it really just accelerated trends that were already in place. I feel like we lived 10 years last year, and we saw the future. And for some industries, that's a great place to be, and others, what was already a tough environment became even more challenging. We don't know exactly how all that's going to shake out. But, I really think once we kind of get to June, July, we'll have some certainty. Things will look a little bit better. And that way we can operate. Because, you can operate in any type of environment, but it's hard to operate when everything's so uncertain. So I think, people are doing as best they can right now, kind of riding that K. Hopefully you're on the upper leg, and, I think things will look good for you.
Well, I think that's a good point. I think once many of us kind of understand or know what the rules are, where the ditches are, then we can make some adjustments. But in this period of chaos, it's that much tougher. All the more reason to have someone of your expertise and your background to help us navigate things that involve, lending or anything financial, I would think.
No, absolutely. And we can provide you with the unvarnished truth, good, bad.
Well, no, wait a minute. I didn't ask for that. I don't know if I want that. No,
you may not, but we'll give it to you. Bankers are. I'm an optimist, but we do carry a little bit of cynicism just for self-preservation. So,
all right. If our listeners would like to reach out to you or someone on your team, have a conversation about some of these topics, maybe explore an opportunity to learn more about the lending process, what's the best way for them to reach out? Website, email, whatever you feel like is appropriate.
Yeah, absolutely. Emailing me at eric@renasant, renasant.com. That was a mouthful.
That was a spelling bee.
Yeah, no.
Hold on, gosh. What was that again?
That's probably the best way to go, or you can always call me at 470-955-9573.
Well, Eric, it has been an absolute delight having you on the show this morning. Thanks so much for coming in and getting us caught up and sharing your story. And I don't know, maybe there's some wisdom since you are local in coming back through periodically. It might even be fun at some point to have you on the show with a delighted client or a market partner. If that's something you're interested in, we'll find a way to do that. Or maybe you'll come in with Leticia or Harry, since you're such an Alma fan, and we'll just rave about their coffee, right?
Hey, that wouldn't hurt my feelings. Anytime I can get a nice hot cup, I'm happy.
Yeah. Hey, hang out with us a little while we visit with our next guest, will you?
Absolutely.
Fantastic. All right. If y'all are ready for the headliner, please join me in welcoming to the broadcast from Diversified Resource Group, Mr. Gary Acedo. Good morning, sir.
How you doing, Stone? Thanks for having me.
I am doing well. So what'd you learn in that last segment, man?
I got to get a relationship with the bank.
Well, I know a guy. I got a guy. Okay, Diversified Resource Group, mission, purpose. What are you out there trying to do for folks, man?
Diversified Resource Group is actually headquartered in Peachtree Corners. Our principal is Daryl Creedon. The business is about 23 years old. We have about 7 salespeople and 3 support staff in our office. Us sales folks work and live in the local area. So I live in Marietta, but I service the Northwest Corridor, specifically Cobb, Cherokee, and up north. We are a contract furniture provider. So basically you take a commercial space, shake it out, and we can provide everything that goes into that space. And it goes deeper than furniture. You know, obviously there's chairs and cubicles and all that, but over the last 14 months, we've really been assisting our existing customers and future customers on getting their employees back to work.
So for our listeners, when Gary got here, I had a stool sitting there in his spot. He promptly took it and threw it out the window and went and got a nice ergonomic chair.
It's got to be made in America, sorry.
The man takes his work seriously and personally. So your world, has it changed as we've been visiting on some of these challenges that Eric was talking about? Yeah.
Yep. We're fortunate that we're in the Atlanta metro area. The cranes were there before. They're still there now. A lot of projects were already funded, so they will complete construction. But it changed pretty dramatically. I'm sure the word WeWork resonates with some folks. That has definitely taken a shift since folks are working from home. But I think people are ready to get back to work. So what we're doing is assisting them with, initially it was started out with plexiglass and cubicles and making sure people were socially distancing over 6 feet. Our firm is a full-service dealership. We have onboard designers and space planners and project managers, so we can take your space, look at your current layout, and then rearrange it accordingly so that it's safer for your employees to come back. But it's grown a lot past just plexiglass. Plexiglass was the buzzword in our industry probably around, when it started in March till about June. But you need to do much more than that. We're hearing things like UV lighting like we have here in the studio. I know Cobb County Schools invested, I believe, $12 million on UV lighting alone.
Wow.
And I don't know if that goes through PPE or not. I'd like to learn more about that. But we also have been doing a lot of air purification, and I have a really good partner with me here today, Alexander, with Special T. They've launched a new division called Safety, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. So it's definitely went away from the traditional chair desk file.
So how does one find themselves in this business? Did you go to school for this? It must have been a little bit of a circuitous path, I would think. Yeah?
It's an interesting story. I'm born and raised.
We'll be the judge of that.
Okay, here we go. So,
all right, Alexander, get ready to hold up a card.
Thank goodness we're a local Cherokee station here, but no offense to California. Born and raised in California. I initially went to college to become a police officer and was ready to sign on with LAPD. Back in 1989 actually, and decided that I would be better off selling pens and pencils for Office Depot than getting shot at in South Central. So I stayed with Office Depot for 18 years and lived in 8 different states and managed Broward County specifically at the end of my tenure down in South Florida at the headquarters in Boca. So I had 25 salespeople and a $45 million budget, and learned really, really fast what a P&L is. So I really missed being a rep in front of the customer. And you can't really impact change from an Excel spreadsheet, but when you're working for a $30 billion company, the analytics are critical. So I gravitated towards the commercial space, furniture specifically. Office Depot at that time, we were selling a lot of furniture that you would see in a retail store that you go home and put it together if you have the patience to do so. I learned what contract meant. So I furnished South County Mental in Delray Beach. It was a $250,000 job, and I took the rest of the year off. And I said, that's where the money's at. So here we are, 20 years in contract furniture. But our business, although it sounds basic, it's so much more than furniture. We have so many options, it'll just make your head spin. It's really, really a dynamic process that we do. So I love it. I go to all the trade shows, our big ones in June, and Neocon in Chicago. Of course, last year that was canceled because of COVID.
Sure.
This year we're optimistic, but we'll see what happens. But I've grown in the sense that we work a lot with designers, interior designers, architects, construction companies. We deal a lot with bankers like Eric. So if people are getting loans for a small business, they're going to need furniture, so it's a good connection.
Yeah, I'll bet. So contract furniture, this means people are renting or leasing as opposed to buying it? Is that
great question? A lot of people ask that.
I thought it was a fantastic question.
It's really a good question. Gary. I tell you, everybody says, what does contract mean? Basically, the furniture that you see in a retail store, that's for home use. Mm-hmm. Contract furniture, you're going to pay more because it's warranted for life. It's manufactured to a higher caliber. You have your selection of colors. A good example would be you're furnishing an office. You have a limited income. If you go to a local retailer, you have a choice between black, black, and black, like this black chair that I'm sitting in. If you went to DRG, you would have got 800 different options of fabrics. So you can really customize your office and make it yours. But we warranty our work, and we're kind of like auto dealers. You have a Ford dealer, you have a Ferrari dealer. This is kind of important to mention. We are a unaligned dealer. And for those of you out there that know anything about contract furniture, you may have heard words like Steelcase, Herman Miller, Knoll, very big organizations. But those dealerships, as we're called, that are selling those products, they are mandated to sell, their A brand. At DRG, I like to say we're an aligned, unaligned dealer. We have over 200 manufacturers that we can specify and provide for our customers. So as an example, if a customer has a limited budget and they want to really get the right office chair and maybe spend a little extra on that and trim down on the panels, well, we can do that. We can what we call value engineer. If it was Steelcase or somebody else, the cost might be higher. We don't have to report to, the investors, so to speak. We're privately held.
Well, I would think that would be a real advantage, probably a competitive advantage, but as a potential customer, to me, I would see that as a distinct advantage.
It is. And then, I run kind of independently as a sales representative of DRG, and the fact that we sell window treatments. So when we're going into a space, we're looking for every little thing that the customer's probably going to need at some point. Air purification, window treatments, welcome mats as you enter their building with their logo. I mean, you name it, we can get it. So the customer doesn't have to shop. I work a lot with nonprofits as an example. I have a customer right now I'm working on, and they didn't have anything on their list of things they wanted to purchase that were related to autism or special needs, and I know they're going to have a need for that. Mm-hmm. So we do have a specialist that will work with the client and specify specific items. In this case, it's called a bubble tube. So if you envision a tube with bubbles, it really helps children with sensory issues or autism or any IEP. And the customer was absolutely taken back by that. They were thinking, the chair, desk, file, how many chairs do we need? And I said, well, what about the kids coming in that can't sit still?
Right.
Oh, you guys do that? Yeah, we do that. And if we can't do it, we'll refer you to somebody that can do it.
So do you find yourself ever teaming up with people in the commercial real estate world, brokers?
Very much so. I moved to Atlanta. It'll be 4 years in June. I moved from Palm Beach Gardens with my family, my wife and my kids. Mm-hmm. And, the first year was rough because I had no choice. I said, we're moving to Atlanta. And they weren't too happy leaving the beach in Palm Beach Gardens and Daddy playing golf.
That didn't go over well.
But they've learned we absolutely love it now. And some of our strategic partner manufacturers are here in the Atlanta metro area. But it's been a good transition.
Well, the reason I asked, one of our clients out of another studio, actually our headquarters studio over in Sandy Springs, is in commercial real estate. And his show is geared towards supporting and celebrating people in the startup community, which makes perfect sense. He wants to cultivate those relationships early because when these folks kind of graduate out of their accelerator or incubator, they need the space. And usually I think they're already funded. Yeah. And so it makes sense to me that you would want to have relationships with these.
Very much so. What I was going to mention was Atlanta, being so big, I finally learned what Atlanta Metro meant. I didn't know what the Metro part meant. Now I know what it means. It goes all the way past Holly Springs, probably to Chattanooga.
South Tennessee.
You know, I mean, it's so massive. So you really got, you got to really define your scope and where you can be most effective. But we deal with a lot of commercial lenders and commercial real estate people. So what we offer commercial real estate and brokers out there, if you have a space you're trying to lease, which there is a lot of commercial space that is available, we can set up what we call a spec suite where we bring in furniture and we stage it.
It's like what I'm going through with my home right now. Our home looks different now. Like
a showroom. Yep. Yeah, it looks like a showroom because when folks are coming in to rent 50,000 square feet and they see white walls, they can't envision their space. So we help them envision their space. Costs the broker $0. All we're asking for is an opportunity to work with their future tenant. And we're doing a lot of that. In fact, there's a nice Class A building in Kennesaw that's unoccupied. I've been working with the agent on that one, so we'll be doing some work with them. And, we do full color renderings digitally. So if the client wants to specify something specific, we can do that. But that's all no cost to the real estate person.
Huh. How cool is that? All right. Who'd you bring with you? Let's introduce this gentleman. Talk about your work together.
This guy is the man, the legend, Alexander Keene. Alexander's with a company called Specialty, and I'm not going to steal his thunder. But long story short, I've known Alexander 15 years. And as long as I've been in this business, he's with a company called Specialty based in Alpharetta, and they have a great story, and they have grown outside of their core market into the safety or the back to work initiative. I actually was one of the first reps at our firm to sell plexiglass. The client spent over $100,000 on plexiglass. When you're talking about 150 cubes per floor, it adds up, but it's a drop in the bucket to get those folks back. So Alexander's company was pivotal in our efforts to do that. So why don't you go ahead and tell them about yourself?
Sure. I'm Alexander. I'm actually in sales for Specialty. And let me take a step back and just tell you who Specialty is. We're a small business, like Eric referred to earlier. Our owner obviously has the intestinal fortitude to have a small business, and his mission is helping others. And the internal way that looks is, I'm not sure if you guys are aware, but there is an opiate crisis and an epidemic of substance abuse issues in Cobb County, in Cherokee, in the metro Atlanta area. Just to put that in scale, nationwide last year, we lost more people to drug overdoses than in all of the Vietnam War. So it's really easy to forget in the middle of the pandemic that people are struggling with mental health issues, with substance abuse issues. So what are we going to do as a business community to help these people when they come out of treatment? Because the two biggest holes for somebody trying to recover from substance abuse issues when they get out of rehab is jobs and housing. Because if they've caught charges, felonies or otherwise, they're unemployable and they're not allowed to live anywhere. So how do we fix that when we're dealing with such a large population of people that, just like yourself, want to become a banker or want to be one of the small business owners or want to work with Gary and sell furniture? Who's going to give them that shot? Well, Specialty does. We don't care what your background is. We don't care what your record is. We just ask that you have about a year's sobriety, completed some successful treatment, and we'll give you a job. And not just a job where you're underemployed, but a job where you're drawing a decent paycheck so that you can become a homeowner. If you want to get married, kids, you can have your chance at the American dream. So that's our internal mission, helping others. And then our external mission is exactly like that, because our owner, Steve, the intestinal fortitude guy, he used to be a furniture dealer. So our external mission is, how do we help the Garys of the world increase their margin, either for project capital or to keep his lights on at his house? And we do that by offering an alternative to the leading brands that he mentioned. We have American-made and European-made tables that have a 10-year parts and labor warranty, and you're going to pay at a much reduced price because we manufacture our own bases in Europe where that mission of helping others is continued. So that's kind of our DNA. And that's how we ended up in the safety product market, helping others. How can we in this community get everybody back to work? And I was telling you before we started, if you look at schools, and I drove by one, they're stuck in classrooms, they're wearing masks all day. Whether they get the vaccine or not, there's cold, there's flu. We're all drinking filtered water right now. And this used to be weird. I can remember when I drank filtered water the first time, people were like, drink out of the tap. But now, if you go to drink out of the tap, somebody's going to tackle you and be like, don't do that. And it's going to be the same with filtered air. Just look at the school example I just gave. If we could put air purifiers in the hallways, in the bathrooms, in the classrooms, and get them some fresh air, because our air purifiers actually capture and rupture the DNA of the virus. It's called surgically clean air. The FBI uses it in their building. The Walter Reed Medical Center uses it in their building. A number of NBA and NHL teams. This is not a toy. People have gone on to Amazon and they've ordered toys. But to bring everybody back safely, it takes more than a toy. And so just like our DNA internally is helping people and our DNA externally is helping people, now we're launching safety products to continue to help bring everyone back to work and back to work safely. Because selfishly, if we can get everybody back in the office, Gary will sell more products, which means I can keep my lights on. And then also, just from a human standpoint, how do we do this safely? Because we've proven COVID transfers through the air. It's an aerosol. And the CDC has come out and said that poorly ventilated areas should consider HEPA filters. Well, our air purifier has 3 filters, the HEPA, the carbon, and a UV light, which is germicidal, ozone free, so you can sell it in California. And it destroys cold and flu because there's COVID. And I think COVID really, if it did anything, is just show us how dirty the air we all are breathing, because a poorly ventilated area is every school, what we're sitting in now, because none of these windows open. So you can put one of these air purifiers through Gary or one of our other valuable partners, and you'll get 5 to 6 rooms full of fresh air per hour. And that's really the solution. So there's 3 pillars. That's just one. That's the third pillar. The second one is what he talked about, plexiglass. That way if somebody coughs or sneezes. And the first one is like you have in your building, entry screening, taking, people's temperature, because all business owners should know this. In June of this year, in this state, protection from COVID-19 ends, which means an employer can be held liable going forward after June if somebody gets COVID. And if they're not taking these steps so they can show that they're doing everything they can to keep people safe, they could be liable. But more importantly, don't you want Eric to be able to go back to his bank? Don't you want Gary to be able to go see his customers? Don't you want to be able to have people in safely? And you can do that through these safety products. So that's kind of who we are in a 10,000-foot view.
Well, it sounds like it must be incredibly rewarding work. It sounds like there's probably a great deal of opportunity. In your conversations around these topics, are you finding people are embracing these ideas with open arms? Are you running into some skepticism? What's the climate out there?
Well, when it comes to the recovery mission, we just told everybody about it last year. We've been in business for 20 years and have always had it, but we were like, well, if we tell people, they're going to think that we're selling, their products are being put together by a bunch of criminals and they won't buy from us. But the actual inverse was true, because when people tell a story, they can identify with it and make an emotional connection. And when I was on the way driving here from East Cobb to Cherokee, I passed a number of neighborhoods. And just think about it. Every one of those houses, or at least every other one, has lost a mom, has lost a dad, has lost a child, has somebody in treatment. I mean, it's everywhere. So when we came out and said, hey, this is what we're doing to better our community, people bought in. And that's the opportunity I give to local dealers in the Georgia area is, look, if you buy from us, that money is going right back into your community to better the people that you're living next to. So they really bought in, and it did land with them, and they didn't throw me out of the office, so that went good. And then for the safety products, it was a little weird. What's this guy selling tables talking about air for? But once I framed it in the correct thing, like, look, we're here to help. first help you sell and next help our community get back to work. And because they knew that internal mission, it made a lot more sense. There wasn't any pushback.
Just to piggyback on that, we had a customer that spent quite a bit of money to furnish a new headquarters, hundreds of thousands of dollars. They were already invested as we were planning, and then we're in the heart of COVID. After we completed installation, one of our salespeople got with Alexander, and they purchased over $230,000 of filters.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Now, why is that? They had to get their employees back,
Right.
and they were willing to spend the money to do so. When you do the ROI on that, it's the right thing to do. So we make it easy for people too, Stone. It's quite a bit of money for a small business. The filters are you're not going to see these solutions at a retailer, but there's financing available that we offer through a third party. So we can help them procure the products that they truly need, and they can make payments. So we can help the customer along.
Absolutely, yeah. In the vein of helping others, his partner called me and wanted some of that plexiglass. I was over there installing the plexiglass because I want to help, and that cut their costs so they don't have to pay for install. And while I was there, the owner came out, and I just explained purified air and the need, just like I did with y'all. And the question wasn't how much; it was when can I get it.
Right.
And so that's kind of where we are. I think in the business community is people are willing; they just need to get the message.
So let's talk a little bit about the way that the two of you work together in a very practical, tactical sense. And the reason I'm asking, there are a lot of people in this business community now, and certainly in the other business communities that I've had an opportunity to work in, that I feel good about them, I trust them, and I'm trying to figure out a way to help them. And I think occasionally we've sort of stumbled into doing some stuff together to serve a common client, but it is by no means strategic or elegant. It sounds like you guys have sort of cracked the code on how to be what I call market mates. Right. Can I would like for both of you, but I'd like to start with you, Gary. Speak to, I don't know, some do's and some don'ts, or just how you guys choose to go to market together and serve.
I think, again, Alexander talked about you need to have a compelling story. Anybody can sell product in any industry or offer any services. I have 35 competitors in Atlanta Metro alone in my industry.
Wow.
So what separates us is really listening to our customers and really being a partner to their business. It doesn't stop after we sell them furniture. It continues through the life cycle of their business. And as they grow, we grow with them. A lot of our customers have locations across the country that we outfit. We are a nationwide provider. Some, perception becomes reality. Some folks say, where are you at? Well, we're headquartered in Peachtree Corners, but we cover the whole country. In fact, I have clients down in South Florida still, so I commute once a month down there. So,
and you just by happenstance maybe golf while you're down there.
Yeah, you got to do that. I miss the old neighborhood. You got to tee it up. And then having 200 manufacturers that I can pull from in various categories, I'm a firm believer in less is more, and I want to grow deep, not wide. And I want to support local business. And I know Steve Roseboom, their CEO, and I've known Alexander, and I trust them. So we are at the point now where I can call Alexander and say, go see customer XYZ. I'll introduce you, and I feel completely comfortable.
You have that much faith and trust in the way he's going to conduct.
Oh, yeah. And out of 200 manufacturers, honestly, I can count maybe 5 that I have that type of relationship. The rest are send me an email, and I'll send you the information, and that's fine. But, I treat it as if it's my money. If somebody's going to spend that kind of money, they need to feel good about it, and I want to help them.
Well, from the perspective of a client, I genuinely appreciate a solid, referrals doesn't really convey it, but an introduction to someone, and the idea that you're not trying to be everything to everybody. You've got, and then now you have this other professional who specializes in this area, and I'm going to put them together with you to genuinely serve you. That means a lot to me as a client.
Another goofy analogy. It's not in direct correlation what you're asking, but if we look at the facility that we're in now, Tom and Lori have become very good friends of mine. And I worked with them initially on the furniture for this building. We did several drawings, several discussions, And at the end of the day, we didn't get the project. I didn't furnish any of this furniture. So most people would maybe have a bad taste in their mouth and say, I can't believe they didn't buy furniture from me. That's not the way Gary thinks, and that's not the way DRG thinks. We think long term. So just merely by coming here to the ribbon cutting where I met you, Stone, and I met about 50 people, I've gotten probably 5 clients just like that, and stopping in here at the Innovation Spot. It's such an amazing space. So, yeah, we are tried and true to our customers and our prospects, and you can't win them all, and you don't take it personal. And the end result is, Tom and I have talked about other ancillary products that they may need here that we can satisfy. So, yeah, I think trust is a big thing. Alexander and I have what we call we're batting 500 constantly. Literally every call that we go on together, we win, and I think it's because of the teamwork to the customer. We are there for installation and questions. We're not necessarily turning a wrench or what have you, but we're guiding. We had another client, an environmental client, that ordered a lot of plexiglass, and some of them are scratched, and I think we were short one. I mean, it happens, but we said no problem. And Alexander got on the phone, and within a matter of hours, we were back out with the product. So that's the difference between us and the other guy. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I would say that the thing that I like most about Gary is his commitment to the customer. It matches mine. And in that vein, I'm out there fighting for his success. I'm not really worried about mine as much as I know his family, and I know the difference this is going to make. And I also know the reputation his carries in the market. So he mentioned competition, and that's a really good point. The main lines, he mentioned them. They have a fleet of me's. There's only one of me, but they have 100 of them, and they're younger, and they're better looking, and there's more of them. So how am I going to separate myself in the marketplace? But I do that, like you said, by providing that customer service, being one of the 5. Yep. And hopefully I'm his favorite. I didn't know there was 5. I thought there was only one.
Well, you must be. He brought you to his appearance on the show,
exactly. Right? Well, just a little shout out. I remember specifically when not everybody in our organization had met Alexander. They know the name, but I'm big on face. Of course, this is pre-COVID. So what does Alexander do? He walks in with a really nice, cool suit and sneakers and a dozen of Duck Donuts. Who doesn't love Duck Donuts? Now I'm the biggest fan. So
yeah. Well, and that's what we are, again, in the core of Specialty, is we are invested in Gary's success because we are owned by somebody that's been in Gary's shoes. So it's very important for us. So I don't consider him a customer. I don't consider him a friend. We consider him family. And once you're in the family, if there's an issue, we don't ask why. We just go fix it. If you need me to go install something, whatever it is, because you're family. And I'm going to make sure you're successful first, and then everything will take care of itself.
What a marvelous story. That is fantastic. So, Alexander, if someone wanted to reach out and have a conversation with you, let's make sure that we leave our listeners with some points of contact.
Sure. My cell, you can always contact me on. It's public. I don't hide it. It's 770.
We'll call you Sunday afternoon while you're at the pool.
You can. Gary called me Saturday.
I did.
770-833-8511. And my email is my name, Alexander, Alexander, Alexander @special, the letter T.net. That's just the word special, the letter T.net.
Fantastic.
And thank you so much for having me. That was awesome.
Oh, it was fun. I'm so glad you had a chance to come in. Gary, what's the best way to get in touch with you, man?
Well, you can reach me at the Innovative Spot. I'm here quite a bit, but it's Gary, Gary, at drgatlanta.com. I would encourage your listeners to go to our website at drgatlanta.com. It does a good job of telling our story. We got a nice informational video on there. And then I also wanted to mention that my direct number, it's still a Florida area code because, I got 8,000 contacts, but it's 561-308-3077. And I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that we're launching a new division over at Specialty. Excuse me, at
he really does want to.
What company do I work for again? I'm sorry. At DRG, and it's called Collective by DRG. So what we're doing is all the high rises in Midtown, those rooftops. I mean, they're pretty sweet. I could live there. If I was 25 again and in college, I'd be living over there. But We have a gal on our team, Haley, who does a fantastic job and is spearheading this division. It's hospitality, multifamily. She works a lot with landowners and developers, so it's called Collective by DRG. You want to go check them out on Instagram. Very informational. And the verticals that we call on, obviously, are commercial, hospitality, and we also do healthcare, higher education, and K-12. So we're a nonstop shop.
Okay, and so email and website again one more time?
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. The email is Gary, Gary, at drgatlanta.com, and my cell number is 561-308-3077.
Well, thanks so much for coming in, man, and thank you for bringing Alexander. What a treat.
He's a great guy.
All right, until next time, this is Stone Payton for our guest today and everyone here at the Business RadioX family saying we'll see you next time on Cherokee Business Radio.